Welcome to the Wake.Show. As everybody knows, a show needs an intro. This is that intro. I am Fisher, your host. It's been a little while since my last simulcast. Let's take on this day together, have some fun, and kick some ass. Welcome to the Wake.Show, everybody. I'm Chris Fisher, and it has been a it's been, I think, 5 weeks. August 3rd was our last simul stream. And Robert Reap, it's good to see your name. And so we're back at, I'll get you filled in. We'll talk about some stuff and move forward. Because here's the thing. I was thinking I was going to be coming in today and having a conversation with my good friend Cords here at Bake More Pies and talking about I know what I want to do. Johnny Torres, I thought about calling you on the way in just to talk about the event coming up this weekend. So if you are free, text me, because then I would like to talk about what you and I are doing. I'm going to be talking about anyway what you and I will be doing on a Friday night, but I know that you're a very busy man. So why pick today? I don't know. There's no really why. It's more of a feeling. And cousin, good to see you, Maribel. And I think I figured out, or I know what I wanted to do with the Wake.Show. I'm excited about it. But then as soon as I get excited about it, and I know the universe doesn't do this on purpose. It's just my crazy that thinks it does every time. Then all of a sudden some things come flying your way, and you're like, okay, well, I guess we'll have to wait. But I'll tell you what I had in mind. But then now I see that we have a meeting tomorrow with some people that could change everything. So I'm not sure what's going to happen tomorrow. But here's what I wanted to talk to Cords about when I came in. Hey, Chris. Hey, Kurt. I want to know if he would, lease all this gear to me and let me put it in my home so I can do the Wake.Show 5 days a week at like 6 in the morning. At first I was thinking 5 to 6, which is still not off the table. But I was thinking, maybe 6 to 7 will be better. And just kind of start and put this in my house and then, kind of go from there. But we have a meeting tomorrow with the people from Identity Tampa Bay, so I'm not sure there might be something else in the works. So that's where I am. It's good to see you guys. I've missed you in a sense. If I missed you so much, then how come I haven't been doing a show? That's a great question. That is a great question. Well, let's talk about other things. Today is 9/11. Also, it is a Suicide Prevention Awareness Week, and that was yesterday. Or I guess the day was yesterday. I think the week is this week. And so this weekend, Friday night, we'll be doing an event with Johnny Torres. It's the Spencer Hall Memorial Endowment for Mental Health Beer and Bow Ties benefiting Crisis Center of Tampa Bay. Let's see here. I'll pull this up for you guys. And Johnny is going to be the DJ. I will be the host. Beer and Bow Ties was founded by Kim Randall and Brent Krause out of passion to help provide resources for suicide prevention and awareness after individually experiencing the loss of a loved one due to suicide. The mission is to raise money for the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay and awareness for all they do for those needing help and guidance. There is, all right, here we go. Here we go. An average of 1 death every 12 and a half minutes due to suicide. And we hope by bringing awareness and raising money for resources, we can help bring those numbers down. The sad reality is suicide is the 10th leading cause of death in the U.S., and we want to do something to change it for the better. Isn't that something? That the 10th leading cause of death in the United States is suicide? It just blows my mind. That now listen, as I do get it. Like, I listen to people on the radio and they're talking about, I don't get it. I don't understand people that, have depression or have ever thought about suicide. I just don't get it. There's a part of me that goes, good, I'm glad. I'm glad you don't get it. And then there's another part of me that's almost like an F you, for not getting it, for not understanding. But it's a fleeting thought when that happens. It comes from a deep place of frustration, really. Because I was one of those people who didn't get it, and anytime that I saw a story about somebody who was had committed suicide or something along those, or tried to, the first thing that popped in my head was selfishness. That person's selfish. Screw them. I think I've told you guys the story. Yeah, and you're right, Chris. The number is on the rise. I think I've told you guys the story before about being on the air when I found out that Kurt Cobain had killed himself. And I just went on a rant, a tirade. I was 20 years old, 20, 21 years old or something like that, doing overnights at XL 106.7 Orlando. And I go on about selfish and leave, you got to think about your kids and da-da-da-da. And then the universe said, okay, MFer. Years later, dragged me over the rocks and went, here's a different perspective. What do you think now, you son of a bitch? And I went, oh, I get it now. Not because I saw it through the eyes of somebody else. It was because my prism was changed, and all of a sudden, in my own world, in my own head, I was contemplating that and going, maybe that's just best. I can't figure this out. I can't even pay my own bills on time. I'm just a piece of shit. Those things spiral and spiral and spiral. And you think to yourself, well, maybe this is best. Maybe it's best for everybody involved. And luckily, I made it through that dark period of my life. But there's still, once you go there, there's never, I don't think you're ever fully in the safe zone again. I think once you've crossed that line, however that works in your head, whatever breaks in your brain or whatever, it happens. Because there still will be those rushes, those flashes every now and again, very few and far between, and they last for a very short period of time. So I would say that I've managed that part of me that has been affected by that. So I'm very honored to be a part of this every single year. The Beer and Bow Ties benefiting the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay. Great people, a great event that's going to be this Friday night. Go to beerandbowties.com, beerandbowties.com. If you wait, beerandbowtiestampabay.com, beerandbowtiestampabay.com for more details to get your tickets and come hang out with me and Johnny Torres this Friday night. So today is 9/11, the 17th anniversary. It seems weird to say anniversary because it's like anniversary is like you're celebrating, or it feels like you're celebrating something. But I posted something on my Facebook page this morning on the personal page, and I want to run it by you guys. Well, I guess I kind of put a little note here. After 17 years, what have you never forgotten? One of the mantras coming out of that time was never forget, never forget, never forget. So this is what I wrote this morning. 17 years later, what does it mean to never forget for you? Is it never forget the people we lost, the confusion and chaos of that day, the unity and patriotism we felt the next day, the realization that the world was much, much smaller than we all thought? So what is it that you never forgot? And are there things from that time that you have reconciled and let go of, made peace with? So feel free to put some stuff in the comment section here. And I know I've been reading this morning a lot of posts from people just kind of rehashing that day. Where were you? Where were you? And before 9/11, do you remember where you were when? I would say the top of the list were those people that were alive when Kennedy was assassinated. Where do you remember where you were when you heard the news? And so I was born in 1972. That was, almost 10 years after that had happened. So that's not something I could relate to. I will say the second on that list might have been, but I much low. Even though it was second, it might be second, it still doesn't hold as much weight, because people would say the same thing about the space shuttle disaster. That first one. I don't remember. Was it Columbus? Challenger? Challenger. Do you remember where you were when that happened? Well, if you were alive, which is so weird too, because think about how many people are alive. There are people driving cars that are working, that are serving you, that were not alive when the attacks of 9/11 happened. To them, it's history. Like, to me, Vietnam was history, being born in 1972. So what? But now let's fast forward to 17 years, because what's it mean to never forget? I also think this is relative. If you're somebody, say, born and raised within eyeshot of the Twin Towers, then I'm sure it had a different, and it still has a different impact. If you lost family members and friends directly, not just indirect. I mean, it's all. I'm not trying to. Please don't think I'm trying to give more weight to one thing than another. I'm just saying well, I guess I am. Things are relative, and especially as we move farther away from that. I'm glad that I haven't seen any posts online going, okay, everybody, I get it. You can remember where you were on November 11th, 2001. But I still think that's an important part of healing. Even 17 years later, when you go through something like that, you got to understand the post-trauma effect that it has on people. I know that it changed me. It took me years to realize that moment, that day, actually did have an impact on me. And now I'm not saying that, it's 9/11 rolls around that I'm curling up in a ball, sobbing. But I'm sure there are people who are. But what it did is it did alter things for me forever. And you're welcome, Chris. It did alter things forever. And one of the things that it altered was, I guess for me, it's that last part. We lived in a much smaller world. I was very naive. I was a naive American and ignorant, like so many of us were very ignorant. Because, America's top of the heap economically, militarily. We've got this big bravado and, we can do whatever we want. We go around the world. We save the world, and, all that kind of stuff. And this kind of stuff doesn't come to our shores. And that day changed everything for me. Well, changed a lot for me. And I don't think I was ever the same since. And one of the ways it affected me the most was really on air, what I was doing in radio. Because up until that point, I was doing a great job. 10 years up until that point, doing a really good job on the radio of talking about nonsense and doing exactly what is needed. And this is not a dig in corporate America. It's just the way it is. And the world that we lived in, in radio, we didn't, whatever, if there was a shooting, you talked about it. There was a moment of, man, I can't believe this is happening, or our thoughts and prayers, one of those things. And then you're back, coming up next, some wacky, dumb shit. And so I did a really good job of that for 10 years. Why? Because I'm coming out of my teen years, getting into radio. Everything's fun and exciting. All they say is just focus on, what's going on in pop culture, write bits around it, stunts around it, parodies around it, all this kind of stuff, phone topics. And so, this is a good example. Going back to earlier in my career in the 90s. So it was so much fun every single week because on Friday morning, I could just bring in the topics that happened on must-see television on Thursday night. What were the stupid scenarios that got set up on Friends and Seinfeld and ER and all this stuff? This happened last night. So did you guys see that? Because everybody was watching those shows, right? And so you just talk about it and turn them into phone topics the next day. So, but after 9/11, my brain couldn't do that anymore. It was like, whoa. There's other stuff going on. So these buildings get knocked down. 3,000 plus people are dead. Now we're going to start wars in countries that had nothing to do with what was going on with 9/11. And we are now in the longest war we've ever been in, still to this day. And you're telling me to come in here every day and pretend that doesn't happen because we need you to bring in the money from corporate radio. There's millions to be made if you just block it out. Just block it out. And just go back to talking about American Idol. Talk about American Idol every GD day. Just do please don't talk about Iran again. Don't talk about the possible threats in North Korea. And I understand, listen, I know that I sound like I'm getting worked up and angry about this is part of the PTSD from that time. But it changed me. 9/11 changed me, and it was very difficult for me to reconcile my show every single day from that point forward. Now, luckily, I had great producers that kept me on track, right? A program director doing the best he could to keep us on track. But really, it was the producers that I had at the time, starting with Seth Kushner, and then later years, Danielle McBroom, who came in. And they could keep us focused, and so they brought most of the material that we talked about in the air, so I couldn't get off the rails. But it was something that I just never was able to kind of reconcile again, I guess is the best way to put it. So 17 years later, what does it mean? What have you, are those things from that time period that you have come to terms with and you've let go? And you don't hold, and what are the things that you still hold on to? Is it only about this time of year? For one day you kind of sit back and reflect and think about that time, or is it just human nature? We're all different, like I said. We're all different. The way that it affected me that day is different from the way that it affected you. It's different from the way that it affected those people that are right there at ground zero. that made it. So a couple of comments coming from my personal page. First of all, from Maribel. I've never forgotten that I was in history class and someone came by and told the teacher to turn on the TV. The second plate had just crashed. And most of the day was honestly not fully understanding the implication of what was happening. Something like that had never happened in my lifetime. I knew the world would be forever changed, though, just listening to the reporting. And I have never forgotten that bad decisions were made in reaction and are still being made. So I've never forgotten the way that we reacted to this. We made mistakes, and we are still paying for those as well, from some people's vantage points. I remember being on the air. It was 8:40-ish, right around in there, 8:40 something. And Seth and I, was it Seth? Or was that back in the Napoleon days still? Anyway, we were conducting a phone interview with a couple. I want to say he was he had just gotten out of prison. And this woman it's one of those, you hear these stories all the time where a woman falls in love with somebody that's in prison. She believes his story about, he was set up or, he didn't do it and this and this and this. And then all of a sudden, and then she's, whatever, they get married or something like that. Well, she believed his story. Not only that, but went out there and did all the work to prove that this guy was behind bars wrongfully. And so after years and years and years, he finally got out. They got married. And so we had him on the phone. And right in the middle of the interview, or right in the beginning of the interview, I remember an engineer coming in, handing me a piece of paper. And it was a piece of paper that came from the AP wire. And it said it's something to the effect of a plane has crashed into World Trade Center 1 or whatever, however it was worded. And in the first report, I wish I would have kept that piece of paper. I don't know why, but if I would have kept it, I would frame it for some reason. I don't know why. I guess maybe because that was just, boom, that was the moment where everything changed. But I don't know if you guys remember this or not, but if you were watching right there in the beginning, we thought it was a Cessna, remember? For a couple of minutes, we thought a Cessna had flown into the World Trade Center. So as people were talking about, well, this could be, you're going, oh, well, maybe this is just somebody who's trying to commit suicide, This was a cry for, whatever, one of those kind of things, but it wasn't somebody trying to take down our government. And that only lasted a few minutes, until that second plane hit. And then there was no question from that point there. But then I remember I was on the air all day that day, or up until about, because we started at 5:30 in the morning. So that was about, I think, 5 o'clock at night or 6 o'clock at night that I finally signed off. And it was after I lost it, after I broke down. It was a full day because I'm sure you guys are, it was just a, what, you're trying to get as much information as possible. This can't be happening. What's going on? Who's responsible for this? Da-da-da-da-da-da. And it was late in the day after 5 o'clock that, I remember. I was dating somebody at the time whose father was in the harbor. He's a tugboat captain. And they couldn't get a hold of him all day. And finally, her mom gets a hold of me. I'm on the air and says, hey, can you please, because she knew she'd be listening to me on the radio. I can't get a hold of her. Can you please say something over the radio that her dad's fine? Look, I'm still to this day. And so I remember I was, we've been on the air for 12 hours straight, da-da-da-da-da. And as soon as I go to say that, man, boom, that was it. That was all the emotions of that day just came rushing forward, whoosh. And that was it for me. So turned off. We'll be back after this kind of a thing. Went into the commercial stop set, and then came back and wrapped things up and went home for the day. But 17 years later, I guess one of the first things that pops in my mind was the next day, was September 12th and 13th and 14th, and this sense of unity and patriotism and oneness and togetherness with the people around you. Noticing flags for the first time I've never noticed, There was one on the way that, to work every single day that I never, ever saw. It's a huge flag on 4th Street right outside of the 7-Eleven there, I think it was. And never noticed the flag until September 12th. And then you're in the store and there's a lot of different people in there of all different sizes, shapes, colors, everything. And man, you did not feel like you were different from that person or separate from that person. You felt like that person was your brother, your sister, and we were all like this for about what? How long did that last? Would you say? Did it just last a week? Or could you say, well, come on, it lasted a few months, where we all kind of felt like we were on the same page? Or did we hang on to that for a little bit and it start to wane once we invaded Iraq or whatever, and then Afghanistan and is that when it started to erode that unity and patriotism? But it's gone now, right? We're not Americans anymore. It seems like. It seems like you have to either self-identify with the crazy left or the crazy right. If you're not ready to blow up something or die for the soul of America right now, meaning fighting another American, then yeah. Now, am I wrong? Am I wrong in that? Am I wrong? You think we're all Americans first, or has Americans have kind of gone down a rung? And first, you have to be a Republican or a Democrat. You have to be a conservative or a liberal now in America. Or is that just me spending too much time reading and watching cable news? Between cable news and reading the news of the day, is that just my warped perception? I remember walking to psych class just after the second plane hit. This comes from Chris Moore. Everyone in the dorm room was stunned. Maribel, TBH, I felt like a lot. What's TBH? I felt like a lot of the patriotism was fake. Back then? Well, you're much younger. How old were you, Maribel, then? You felt that the patriotism was fake. I don't know. I felt it, and it was not fake for me. And I was not somebody who was ever patriotic. I don't know what that means. Patriot, do I love my country? Yes. Am I somebody who is nationalistic, or what do they call it? Jingoistic? No, not at all. What's the difference? You may be asking. I should probably pull it up. But patriotism is to have a love of country, right? Let me pull it up because I'm going to mess it up. The difference between patriotism, nationalism, and jingoism. Basically, it's a spectrum. You love your country up to a certain point, but if your country starts effing with somebody else and it's wrong, you don't just stand behind your country and go, well, we may be slaughtering an entire nation, but in the end, we're going to get their oil, so it's going to be good for us, so yay, us. That's jingoism. So patriotism versus nationalism versus jingoism. Let's see what the old internet has to say about this. Jingoism, excessive patriotism, or aggressive nationalism, especially with regards to foreign policy. Jingoism can be defined as aggressive nationalism. Patriotism is another term that needs to be understood. It is a form of patriotism that is defined not by what a person loves, but instead by what a person hates. Well, geez, that's a whole... All right, so now we're in a... Good, I'm glad we have more terms for hate. That's nice. So 17 years later, what does never forget mean to you? Leon, I've never forgotten having to explain to my children that there are people in this world that are capable of such horrific acts. And they kept asking, but why? As footage was rolling on the TV, I had to shut off the television as these images were too graphic for my children at the time. That's a whole different ballgame for those of you that had kids, had little ones, which you were trying to explain to them. Did you put it all on somebody else? Because that was part of why there was this split in my psyche. Because I didn't just go, wait, who did this? Focus my anger, my ire on them and go, I don't care what you do. Throw every nuke you have at them. I don't care if there's collateral damage. F them, blah, 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 blah. Because I sat back and I consumed the information of the day. And as you went on, you started to learn more about what we do in other parts of the world. And so I don't want to say that I understood. Oh, no, please. I don't even want to go down this path of saying I don't want to say I started to understand how this happened, but I started to get a better understanding of the world. So within that, I went, oh, okay. So this was inevitable. I mean, they already tried once. They already, it was in 1993 or whatever it was. They tried to bring down the World Trade Center. So this was inevitable, basically. But I didn't know about it. But how can I not know about it? I was on the radio 5 days a week doing a morning show. I was in the media. How did I not know that this was a possibility? It's because we're so protected here in America that our jobs were not, especially for those of us who were the faces of radio stations, the faces of television stations, the leads in television shows. I mean, your job was never to talk about these issues. Our armed forces will take care of it somewhere. You just stay. You just keep these people coming. Keep watching. Keep listening. Keep watching. Keep listening. Keep giving me your money. Yeah, there we go. There, good boy. Good girl. So that was our jobs, and is now our jobs again. Except our times keep forcing us. Which there's a part of me that wonders, if there is a universal force behind this kind of stuff. So you want to keep blocking out the evils of the world, the horrific stuff of the world, and just stay focused on trying to get money out of people's pockets. Well, you'll get tragedy after tragedy after tragedy until eventually you will be forced to talk about what's going on in the world. You're not going to be able to just sit back and pretend that everything is great when it's not. If the war perception, I share that same perception. Yeah. Bill Walk, I thought this was a touching story to click on. Let's see, which one is this one? New York City firefighter, how separated, To be honest. Oh, to be honest, TBH. Thank you. All right, Bill, I'll click on this and see what we got. Oh, actually, my stuff's moving kind of slow today. Maybe I shouldn't have clicked on it. So anyway, I mean, we don't have to sit here. We're not going to sit here and focus. It's 17 years. It's not the 10th anniversary. It's not the 15th. It's not the 20th. It's 17. Next year, we will have Americans who will be eligible to vote and go to war who had yet to be born when this happened. And to them, it's almost, it's history. It's almost ancient. But they have all been raised in the world that most of us, they're of a certain age, can't even imagine. Imagine being born, on September 12th of 2011 or 2001, or later that December of 2001. You were born into a world that we call the post 9/11 world, and on top of that, these emerging technologies and advancements in everything that were science fiction to even people like me born in the 70s, in the early 70s. So, Jordan, it's good to see you. I'll be contacting you here in the next couple of days to let you know what's going on and to book you and get you in here. So, those are my thoughts on 9/11 and what you hold on to. The never forget part of it. What did you never forget? Because we all forgot about the unity part, didn't we? We all forgot that we're all Americans no matter what. We're all Americans because that shit ain't flying anymore. You're only American, if you're from one perspective, you're only American if you are if you are the most conservative, right-wing prick you can possibly be. And for others, you're only an American if you are constantly protesting and trying to take down the government. But for a minute, 17 years ago, for a couple of days anyway, we were all united. We were all Americans. And we all seemed to be together on something. All right, a couple more things. Don't forget, we got Beer and Bow Ties this Friday night. I'll be hosting along with Johnny Torres. And this is an event, year number 4. We're raising money and awareness for suicide prevention and the crisis of or the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay. If you want more details, beerandbowtiestampabay.com. Get your tickets there as well. Beer and bow ties. And I said that I was going to get rid of my yellow tie that I've been wearing the last 3 years. That I see that's the theme of this year is yellow with the polka dot. So, all right, my tie is sticking around for one more year, and then next year I'm going to get one. Hurricane Florence, for our friends and family that are up in that area, our thoughts are with you. And, as we're still putting things together here in Florida, for some of us are from our Hurricane Irma last year, our thoughts are with you. Don't take this stuff lightly. It's hard to say because even if it was coming our way, I'd be like, I'm getting a bottle of whiskey and we're going to, head over to the in-laws' house and hunker down and, whatever. But this looks like it is just, it's a big one and it ain't moving. It's coming right at you over warm water. And so good luck. Good luck with that. Hurricane Florence. And then can I talk to you about Facebook for a second? I'm not going to show this because I'm not I don't need to. How does Facebook allow a video to stay on their site of a dog being tortured to death by a blowtorch in its mouth? I'm scrolling through my feed yesterday and, all the normal nonsense. I mean, awesome updates. Scrolling. And all of a sudden, the videos automatically start playing as you go past them. So I'm scrolling, and all of a sudden this video starts playing. It's of somebody holding a dog now. Looks like a German Shepherd mix or something maybe. I've only watched 5 seconds of it. So because I was trying to swipe and get rid of as fast as I can or click on a button and figure out how do you report this person. Is there a button I can hit right now that the person that posted this gets an electrical shock on the other end? But I couldn't figure it out, but I could keep hearing it, so I just swiped. I just got rid of it. I was like, get this thing out of here. And then later, as I was trying to go back, I wanted to find it so I could report the person. I couldn't find the video. So what I did see, I guess it was a petition. It looked like it was a petition, and somebody holding a dog down as the video plays, and this guy with a blowtorch shoving it in the dog, going at the dog. So the dog's going like this, try to get away, and the guy just keeps burning this dog to death. And I guess, according to what I saw in those 5 seconds, this is a practice somewhere in China. Again, I do not know if this is true, real, whatever. A practice somewhere where you cook a dog from the inside out while it's still alive. Which, I mean, I don't think I have to describe to you the feelings that start to well up inside when you see something like that. But I was angry. I was more angry, and this is sad. I was more angry that I had to witness this than I was at the fact that it was actually happening, that it's actually happening somewhere in the world. Now, I made a post going, all right, I just saw this video, described it. Facebook, how do you let this happen? And so people started posting, once I had a picture of myself with my shirt off and I had a nipple ring on, and this is a dude, by the way, and that got taken down because of content violation or whatever, some kind of a violation. Somebody else goes, I start going off on my Democrat friends, and next thing you know, I'm being flagged and I can't make any posts. Yet, this video is going around of a dog being tortured to death. I'm assuming to death. I didn't watch the whole thing. I don't think he got away. Brother, good to see you too. Thanks for the warning yesterday with your post. I turned off my phone all day. This is a horrible story. It is. So this is what I gathered from the people that had posted stuff in my feed yesterday. Alleged, because I guess this video has been reported by probably thousands of people. But it's because it's attached to a petition that says if you sign this petition, we can get this kind of stuff to stop, which is complete and utter bullshit. They're saying that was the reason that Facebook is allowing this to stay up, because this is a petition to stop this kind of thing. No. You can take a still, blur out a little bit so you can get the gist of what's happening. Or is that another Does that go back to one of my original points about where we were with 9/11? That we in America, we have it so good that we've been able to block out the rest of the world for so long. We only pick and choose the things that we want to interact with. And so me being as a I wonder if my reaction should be, we should see more of this. One of the problems that we have in this country is we coddle ourselves. And so we should be showing the same images on the nightly news that they show in Mexico and other places where you do see the blood and you hear the screams and you see the, what's it called when you, chop off somebody's limbs and stuff like that? I'm glad that word escapes me right now. Mauling, the mauling. Maybe. So here's what I'm wondering. So is that just another example of me being a snowflake, so sensitive that, and I wasn't the only person in my feed either that made a similar comment of, I don't want to see that, I don't need to see this, I can't unsee this. Instead of going, oh my gosh, where is this happening? Let's get more information and drop bombs on that part of the world. I'll tell you, emotional or viscerally, I feel like no. That I'm going to Facebook for certain things. It's a social media, and if there's a petition, if there's something going on where you'd actually stop things, you got a petition and a picture, like I said, blurred out. All right. But I don't need to be scrolling through and all of a sudden just see, animals being burned alive. Somebody else posted that they came across a video on Facebook where a child was beating a dog to death with a bat. Some other woman was kicking a child to death or something. And these are all videos that we saw on Facebook. Again, there's a part of me that goes, well, what are you asking? Are you asking for that stuff to stay away from your sight so you can pretend that everything's okay in the world and go about your business and live a fun little life while these things are happening all around you? Or should we see more of these things? Should there be more outrage, more disgust, so that when we lay down at night, yes, we kiss our children, and we go, man, God, thank you for the day. What a great day. And at the same time, man, is there anything we can do about some of the other things that are happening in the world? I don't know. Video games. Dismemberment. Thank you, Jordan. Yeah. Because I can make that. I've made that argument before on the radio, in public, on the radio, that we shouldn't be censoring our nightly news as much as we are. Now, this goes back I probably made this argument for the first time 20 years ago, if not longer. And that we should be showing more. So we can't sit there and just keep pretending that this stuff's not out there, because eventually it gets here. We keep pretending that the world isn't blowing up around us, and eventually planes start flying into our buildings. So I guess I'm right here. It's part of the discussion. Whatever. All right. Well, listen. I hopefully will have an update about the exactly what the Wake.Show is going to become. Let's see. I was working on a little something. I'll just show you real quickly. Yesterday, nothing big. It's just I just pulled out the pages on my Mac here and started tooling, because I think what I was thinking is that the Wake.Show is going to be a Monday through Friday show. We'll go back to that. And like I said, I wanted to do this out of my home. I want to see what Cords thinks about that. And yeah, I'm going to do it like 5 a.m. to 6 a.m. or 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. But we have a meeting tomorrow with the Identity Tampa Bay, so that all might change. We'll see. All right. I guess I'm sorry. I come in, and next thing you know, I'm doing a heavy show. I come in on September 11th, and Suicide Prevention Week. We're doing a show like this. I don't know if there'll be another show this week. I'm not planning on it, to be honest with you. If I get a wild hair, I will. But I just wanted to fire this thing up and let you know that everything is okay, and see how you guys are doing. Just do a little check-in and let you know about the Beer and Bow Ties event that's happening this weekend, this Friday night. So beerandbowtiestampabay.com. Here it is. Look at your screen. Look at it. Suicide facts. Hillsborough County has the 4th highest suicide rate in Florida. Pinellas County is 5th. Every day, approximately 105 Americans die by suicide. Suicide takes the lives of over 38,000 Americans every single day. Since 1972, the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay has been committed to bringing help, hope, and healing to people facing serious life changes. What we do and how we do it has dramatically changed dramatically over the years, and it will continue to evolve. But there is one thing that has never changed: the extraordinary dedication of Crisis Center volunteers, donors, and staff. Quote, every life is worth living. I will say it was nice yesterday to see a lot of the media personalities and people that I know posting positive things about suicide awareness, which was yesterday. That day was yesterday. And hashtagging life is worth living. Joran. Well, I'll come back to this in a second. And seeing that life is worth living, and I don't know if you guys know Micah Rotunda or not, but she had a great post that had a picture of a bunch of people on it, Robin Williams and Anthony Bourdain and all these, and since all these people had in common were a tremendous talent to connect with all of us in ways that, is special. It really, in the category, Chester Bennington, special. You can't do what Chester Bennington did, most of you anyway. Chester Bennington, Robin Williams, Anthony Bourdain, all of them. Yet there's something else that happens in their head that, I don't know. Was it coming up in 2 weeks? They're going to start the final season of Anthony Bourdain. What do they call it? One Last Trip or something like that? One Last Trip Around the World. I'm watching it. I hate that so many times over the years. I feel like I've connected with that part of people, which obviously is a concern. If you connect with that part of somebody else, then I'm not talking about the good parts. I'm talking about the darker parts. Then you got something to worry about yourself. So Joran goes, I remember the first time I saw a video of a beheading that was leaked online, 1998. Early days of the internet. Couldn't believe it was real. We are down the rabbit hole and need to be vigilant and self-conscious about our internet access and usage. Yeah. When people will say, after I posted that post yesterday about that dog being burned alive from the inside out with a blowtorch, people started that, Facebook is evil, the internet is evil, da-da-da-da-da-da. And it's both. The internet is just powerful. Being connected, like the human organism being connected to itself, wrapping around the world. An instantaneous flow of information, good or bad. It's not evil. It's not good. It's a powerful force that have both attributes, just like most everything else in life. And I wouldn't watch those, Jordan. Do you remember the Faces of Death videos? The first time, high school, this would have been high school, I would imagine, or right out of high school, and we're over at somebody's house. They have a video, the VHS tape, Faces of Death. They put it in. The first thing pops up, or the first thing I see is somebody going off a ramp, I think it is, on a car or something. Whatever it was, I turned and walked out of the room, and I was like, no, I don't want to see this. The beheading stuff over the years, wouldn't watch. Even when it was some may have considered it important. Like Daniel, what was his name? The journalist. One of the ones that were one of the more famous ones that people actually watched. First, I would question, like, those people that wouldn't watch, like, searched it and watched it. I'm like, what's up with you? Like, who would even search? Ooh, there's a beheading. But I realize that we're all different. I'm very sensitive to that kind of stuff. Other people, EMTs, doctors, other psychopaths. Just kidding. I don't mean that. I guess what I could never understand is how you remove the empathy that your natural empathy, and are able to watch that without being impacted forever. But again, I got to put myself a little bit more in the snowflake category. I'm a little bit more sensitive to that kind of stuff. Like, when there's a body on the side of the road, right? You're passing a wreck. Do you look, or do you look the other way? I look the other way. I'm not saying I'm better. I'm just sensitive. one night when one of my friends was killed outside of, what was that called? Bourbon Street in the early 2000s. Dirt. Had a gig there that night, and we're sitting there chatting it up. We were going to meet up later. We didn't meet up later. He was in the road, being covered in sheets. He was being scraped off the road. So I didn't know this as we're leaving that night, and a car full of people. They're all looking out the window at the body in the road, and I'm looking the other way. You say, oh, what are you, some kind of a P word? You're an adult? Nah, yeah, I guess so. Like I said, I've come to terms with realizing that there was a generation or snowflakes. You know how when snow comes, there's little flakes that come, and then all of a sudden there's a flurry. Well, I think in Generation X, there was those snowflake-ish, that snowflake sensitive person started to pop up. We just didn't realize it, and we thought they were just all focused in the grunge movement. They were all in Seattle. But now, fast forward 25, quarter century, and it seems like you have more and more sensitive types out there. I don't know. So yeah, I used to think if you were somebody who would watch something like that, there was something wrong with you, and I realized no, we're just all different. Michael, they never address the root cause of suicide. It's hard. It's hard to explain depression and suicidal thoughts to somebody who's never experienced it, and this is in my experience. Because no matter how hard you try or somebody else tries, I want to understand. So tell me, what are the thoughts? So you start going, well, this happened and this, and so this thought, and it led to this. Well, all you have to do is think this, or just don't think about that, or da-da-da, or just picture it this way, and you just go, okay, let me start over. All that stuff that I just told you about how I ended up there, it's all bullshit. It's all BS. However we get there, it just spirals, and it spirals quick. And afterwards, you're trying to piece things together to make sense of how you got there. But in my estimation, it's usually probably not the truth. I think probably the best answer, well, explain what happened, for instance, all of a sudden one day I'll just be filled with dread and despair, right? Well, what's wrong? And you try to explain, or you try to give them an answer. It's not what you just try to give them an answer so that maybe they'll go, oh, geez, good luck or something. I don't know. But they cause, oh, wait. Are you talking about the suicide hotline, Michael? When you called them, they call the suicide hotline live on the show. They skip over the root cause. Support your local psych hospitals. Never know if you're going to need one. I ended up at one of those. I don't know if I ever told you that story, but I ended up at one of those for 72 hours. After because I got admitted on a Friday night. So on Saturday morning, I feel better. I feel good. I'm feeling okay. Oh, by the way, I was not committed to one of those because I tried to hurt myself. Now, technically, if you get Baker acted, it's because you were they feared you're going to harm yourself or somebody else. But that's not where I was, and I'm not going to go in that story. I know some of you've heard it 100 times, and some of you're hearing it for the first time. But I was just I had a break from it's a break from reality. The cop could sense it. I wasn't speaking to the cop, so he goes, "If you don't talk to me, then I'm going to Baker act you." And I went like. In my head, I'm going, really? Just because I'm not talking to you, Baker act me? Like, no, it's because all of us, you're following your dog around wherever it goes in other people's homes and not saying a word and freaking people out. So anyway, on Saturday morning, I wake up and I go to the nurse or something like, okay, hey, I feel better. When would I talk to the psychiatrist so I can get out of here? And they're like, that's not how it works, Mr. Fisher. You're here for 72 hours. The psychiatrist will be in on Monday. I was like, oh, okay. And so it was, but I'm glad because it was a very eye-opening experience about real mental health issues. And I thought maybe I was a little crazy or whatnot. No. You meet a couple of people on the inside and you go, oh, that's crazy. That's psychopathic. There was this one kid in his 20s, and I couldn't really understand. Well, I knew why he told me that he was there because he was going to kill himself or his whole family and himself. I'm like, well, okay. But he seemed like the nicest dude. I mean, really nice, empathetic. As he's interacting with the other, all of us, he's just nice and in tune, caring, compassionate. And I'm going, wow, what? I don't get it. Doesn't make any sense, right? And then we're all sitting at a table playing a game. And I'm getting a little boisterous, and I got a bad mouth. Well, you're not allowed to cuss either, I guess. You got to watch your mouth. So a woman says something to me, and I was like, oh, yeah, sorry, okay. Then that guy said something. I don't remember what triggered it, but that guy said something. The nurse says something to him, and then all of a sudden, all that stuff I'd seen for a couple of days of him being nice and compassionate, I just saw the darkness just boom like that. Like he just, as soon as she said something, he just zeroed in on her, over where she was at her desk, and just was burning holes through that woman's head in his mind. And so I was like, hey, saying his name and, trying to make a joke to kind of snap him out of it, dog whisper, hey, but he did not budge. And that's when I went, okay, all right. Well, this mental health game, it is way above my pay grade. I think I'm so smart and I can understand this. Just give me some time with a person. But nope. There is stuff out there that I cannot wrap my hand around. Or I can wrap my hand around it, just not my head around it. Chris, what do you mean what? Message me. Okay. When you say meet people, do you mean the staff or patients? Both. Most people direct you to this hotline without any clue what the hotline does. Okay, so Michael, what you're saying is you'd like me to call the hotline and kind of just see what the process is. You're thinking it's not. Hey, I'm sure it's not perfect, and I've also talked to the people from the Crisis Center of Tampa Bay a few times about what they do, and I know it's about trying to get you to the right people too. They've got specific people for veterans because a lot of times when veterans are going through this, they're like people just aren't going to understand, so they keep it to themselves. But they do feel a little bit better if they can connect with somebody else who's a veteran, somebody else who's been in the military. So I don't know what you. So Michael, did you have a bad experience? Did you call them once for something and it just made it worse? You called them because you needed something, and next thing you know, you're going, holy crap, I didn't want to kill myself before I called the crisis hotline. Now I do. When you say meet people, do you mean the staff? All right. So there you go. Enough about my crazy. Thank you so much for being a part of the Wake.Show. Like I said, I'm not sure when I'm going to fire back up again. I think it's going to be soon, though. I will let you guys know. And other than that, have a great day. Have a great week. And I don't know what you guys are doing tonight, but I'll be out at the beach doing trivia. I'm not done. We're not going to end on a low note, all right? We'll end on a high note. Seinfeld. So first, let me do this. Tonight, I'll be at Boulevard Burgers doing trivia, general trivia, from 7 to about 8:30-ish. We give away free drinks between every single round. First, second, and third place gift cards, $20, $15, and $10. I'm there every single Tuesday night. A lot of fun. Boulevard Burger, St. Pete Beach. Do the same thing Thursday nights out at Mastery's, Blind Pass, St. Pete Beach. But last night, I'm at Kelly's Chickaboom Room for a special themed Seinfeld night. And so it was really, these are really cool. The theme nights are really cool, right? But what did you guys think of Seinfeld back in the day? Did you think it was like when you were watching it back in the 90s? Were you like, this is genius, this is the best show of all time, or did you just like it? Or maybe you caught it sometimes, you didn't other times? Because one couple was there and they're like, we're not going to play. We hated Seinfeld. And I asked them why, and they go, we just thought the characters were all so stupid. And I go, I know what you mean. Back in the night, I feel like if I were to watch Seinfeld now, I would have a much more appreciation for it than I did back then. Because back then, although I did enjoy it, I did not see every I didn't watch every episode. I did see most of them because it was part of that must-see TV. And but here's what I didn't like about the show. One was partly that. The characters were just so, especially like George, And all the constant outburst. Who are the? Who does that? It just would drive me insane. And two, I felt like they were jerks. Like, to me, the four main characters were like these self-centered, narcissistic a-holes who judged everybody else around them and not themselves. And that would annoy me. Now, years later, looking back in the show, I go, they did end the show. Larry David did end the show with those four characters in jail. So maybe I did miss something back then. Maybe that was part of the point. So at the end, they didn't just walk off into the sunset. It was the exact opposite. They all ended up in jail with each other for a year. So for you, where does Seinfeld fall on the greatest shows of all time category? Do you put it right, or greatest comedies of all time, television shows? Do you put it right up there? I got a little trivia question for you. I've got two trivia questions for you. First one, the series finale in 1998, the series finale of Seinfeld, approximately how many people watched it? Was there more than 100 million or less than 100 million people? More than 100 million or less than 100 million people that watched it? I'll give you a second. Less than 100 million people. I think it was approximately 78 million or 76 million, something like that. All right, so here's a better question. The series finale of Seinfeld ranks as the third most watched. Oh, look at me. Look at that. Maybe there are other things to talk about today. Can't even play the finger game anymore. Can't even say okay. I can't even meditate anymore like this because it's turned into something else. A-holes. Seinfeld, the series finale of Seinfeld, ranks as the third most watched series finale of all time. What are the other two? Coming in second place, Cheers. And the most watched series finale of all time, MASH, with I think they had like 150 million or something, like 160 million watching that one. So there you go. No, I'm not going off in a discussion on because that was last week. You guys already talked about it. All right. I'm going to say a little bit about it. You're right. MASH is the most watched. This. What the F, people? Come on, man. Now, I was not raised around white supremacy, although I was born in a sundown town. A sundown town is a town that used to have a sign into the main road going in that said, "Don't let the sun set in your black ass." Well, from what I understand, the town that I'm from, Ocoee, was one of those towns. Up until 1974. I was born in 72. So there's a 2-year period there where that sign was still there. Even though they took the sign down, there was still the sentiment there, and it's some of the populace. Now, growing up, I didn't experience a lot of that. My friends growing up weren't racist. There weren't ever talks about that kind of stuff. Now, there were, like peppered throughout my life, you would hear people talking about the South, South is going to rise again. And, the day, well, what about the day when there's the war between the whites and the blacks? Which side are you going to pick? Like, I'm not picking your side, dick. I'll tell you that much right now. And there also was a sign that was on one of the roads that I would go to every day for school. It was a Lions Club sign, and on the back of it, somebody had spray painted KKK, and that sign was up for years. Nobody just bothered to take it down or clean it. But even though I was in one of those towns, never, ever did I hear about this being any kind of a white power symbol. This was okay, or for the most part, it was the game where if you go like this and somebody does that, you punch it, whatever that whole thing is, you punch them. So that's that. And so if you guys know better, if you guys come from a more racist background than I do, and you're like, no, that's a thing. Okay. But this is the first I'm hearing of it. And I guess my point then would be, I heard this line. I want to say it was from my old friend Seth on the Drew Garabo show. I think it was him. He said, racism has jumped the shark. He said it jokingly, not trying to poop, like say, we can't even talk about the issues of racism anymore. But he goes, racism has jumped the shark. And I LOL'd in my car when he said that. Because I know what he meant by it. It's a, hey, listen, man, there's some real racism out there, okay? There's real stuff that we got to talk about. But if you are going to see racism in every GD thing, you're the one with the issue, okay? And I'm so sorry about what happened to you. I really am. I'm not patronizing you. Whatever set you up, whatever happened to you in your childhood or those pivotal moments in your development that all you can see now is race, that sucks. I'm sorry. I don't know if there's anything I can do about it. But there are real racial issues, and not every effing thing that happens is tied back to some kind of a racial motivation or bigoted motivation, a prejudicial motivation of prejudice. Sometimes, like even me, I'll sit there sometimes like on my lap if I'm breathing, even out in public. I haven't done this in years. This is back when I was first learning how to meditate, but learning how to breathe. But when I started, all right, there's only 3 of you watching, so I don't mind. I'll keep going. I'll share this part and then I'll be done. Learned how to breathe / meditate. I don't know how long it's been now, 7 years ago or something like that. And in the beginning there, what I was trying to figure out was just how to breathe. I just realized that I was always like, just couldn't just breathe like a normal human being. And so once I eventually, after months of working really hard at it, what I was trying to do is calm down my brain. That's what I was trying to do. The reason that I couldn't just go and then just breathe and get quieter and quieter, because my brain, as soon as like it starts just lights up, and then it's going in a million different directions and I can't control, I'm whatever. And I can't just be zen. So I finally figured it out one day, and I start breathing in through my nose and out through my mouth. I'm like, oh, wow, this is working. Well, then I kind of got over this weird little area, this hump, and next thing you know, I'm meditating for hours at a time and sitting there and just and all of a sudden, all kinds of crazy things are happening in my head. It was awesome. And then I don't know if it was like 6 months later, if this was 18 months later, or whenever it was. At some point, I was meditating and breathing, and then thinking about like when you see people doing this, that kind of thing. So I kind of just did it. Like, I don't know. I was like, all right, well, I'll just do it. And I did this, and all of a sudden I just felt like it's a sensation in my head as I did it. And I noticed it more when I did it with my left hand than if I do both right. So I would, breathe then, and for the next couple of months like this, because there was a sensation that was connected to it, and I don't know where it came from. And yeah, so I'd be out in public, out in public, I'm just breathing. And if you were looking at my hand, you would always see my hand like this on my lap, or I'd put it in my pocket sometimes because I was self-conscious about it. So I'm fast forward, and all of a sudden I see that chick who's sitting behind Kavanaugh last week, and she's got her hand like this, and people are, yelling out white power. She's throwing up a white power symbol. I go, do you know this chick's half Jewish and half Mexican? Before you guys start throwing out the dumbest shit of all time. But that's where we are. That's where we are. People are looking to be offended. They know right around the corner is an opportunity to be offended again. There it is again. And I want to say it's ridiculous and downplay it, but it's not, because of the implications. I want to go, it's snowflakes trying to be offended. No, but it's ramping. It's unnerving. It's unnerving, that's for sure. And again, that is not to downplay real bigotry and racism, systemic racism, and stuff that I'll never understand, no matter how hard I try. But can I give you a thumbs up? Or what's this mean now? All right. Enough of that then. Nikki, it's good to see you too. All right, you guys have a great day. I'm going to get a haircut, and I will talk to you soon. Bye. Bye. There we go.